My name is Professor Keith Baar. I'm a professor of molecular exercise physiology at UC Davis. And today what I'm going to be telling you is a little bit about how we build our strength and our muscle mass. And the reason that it's really important is that the number one predictor of longevity in humans is actually your muscle mass and strength. So if you're in the strongest third of the population at midlife, you are 2.5 times more likely to make it to your 100th birthday. Traditionally, what people have thought of when their doctors say, oh, you should exercise, is people think, oh, I've got to go out and run or walk or do these long repetitive exercises. And those exercises are good for us, and what they do is they increase the volume of our heart. But they're not really increasing our strength very much. And if all we do is those endurance type exercises, we're not going to get bigger and stronger muscles. And so what we have to do in some way to build our muscle mass and strength is to move against a heavier load. And what we can do is we can do that using whatever tools we have available to us. So I'm lucky enough to have a really beautiful gym where I've got really great equipment. You might have access to a gym where they have free weights or movable weights or dumbbells, or you might just be at home and you've got cloth bags that you take to the supermarket and you can use those for your weights. Whatever weights you have, it's going to be enough to give you a stimulus to make your muscle bigger and stronger. So it doesn't matter whether I lift a tiny little weight or a big heavy weight. If I go until I cannot or barely lift it anymore, that's going to be all the stimulus my muscle needs to get bigger. And I can do that in one set where I do 10 of a specific exercises, so lateral raise, for example, or I can do it in 3 sets, whatever you want to do. So if you can get to that point of failure where you can't quite lift it anymore, then that's all you need. You don't have to do another set and you don't have to do any more repetitions. Then what I do is the next time I come into the gym, I'm just going to lift a slightly heavier weight. And all this means is no matter what weight I start at, as I go and I hit my goals, each time I hit my goal, I increase my weight. Each time I hit my goal, I increase my weight. And what that allows me to do is within, say, 2 or 3 weeks, no matter how light I started, within 2 or 3 weeks, I'm lifting at a weight that's challenging me and that's going to give me a great stimulus to get bigger and stronger. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to lift weights, and we're going to show you how to do it in a way that allows you to not feel super sore, but it allows you to get enough of a stimulus to then allow that as a starting point for you to build from. So there's 2 types of machines that you find in a gym. And one is called an isolation machine. And what an isolation machine is, it's isolating one joint. And so when we use an isolation machine, it doesn't matter whether it's a chest fly machine, a lateral raise machine, or in this case, it's a leg extension machine. All isolation machines, we fit into them the same way. We find the point of rotation of our body. So if I'm doing a lateral raise, the point of rotation of my body is in my shoulder. If I'm going to do a chest fly, the point of rotation again is in my shoulder. In this case, my leg extension, my axis of rotation, the center of my axis of rotation is in my knee. And so what I have to do is I have to fit where I'm going to rotate with where the machine rotates. And so you can see this little circle here, that's where the machine is going to rotate. And what my goal is, when I'm sitting down to any machine that's an isolation type exercise, is to find that axis of rotation of the machine and put it through the axis of rotation of my body. So I can adjust the seat height, I can adjust different things, but the end result is so that that goes through the part of my body that's going to be moving. And now when I extend out, I'm going to hold my legs straight for a little count, and I'm going to bring it back down. And the goal is that we go through a full range of motion, all the way up to the top, and then all the way down to the bottom. And when we do this, what we're trying to do is we're trying to go up on, say, a 1 count. If we go up on a 1 count, we're going to come down on maybe a 2 count. So we spend a little bit more time on what we call the eccentric phase, or the lengthening phase of the muscle. So there I shorten the muscle, the quadricep muscle shortens, and here it's lengthening under load. The reason I spend a little bit more time on that is because that's going to give us a little bit more of a stimulus for that muscle to get bigger and stronger. All right, so when we do any isolation exercise in the gym, whether it's a leg curl, a leg extension, a chest fly, anything that's only moving one joint, say a bicep curl machine, If I've got a machine that's going to do that, I put the axis of the rotation of the machine through the axis of rotation of my body. So that's how we set up for an isolation exercise. There, axis of rotation of the machine through the axis of rotation of our body. This one is a little bit different. This is now going to be a chest press. It's what we call a compound exercise. What that means is that I'm going to move both my shoulder and my elbow. And that means that the machine is going to be slightly different. The first thing is the axis of rotation is way behind me. So I can't put the axis of rotation of two different joints through that. So instead of using that, what we have is we have just rules of thumb. Anything where I'm going to use my chest, what I want to do is I want to make sure that when I sit and I'm there, that the hand position is such that when I lift my arm straight out in front of me, that is just barely touching the bottom of my arm. So this is a little too low of a seat for me. So what I would do is I would come in and I would adjust the seat. And in this case, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to sit back down. And now when I put my arm out, it's right at the bottom of my underarm. That tells me that it's perfectly positioned for me to do this chest press. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up so that when I'm at the back of the movement, I'm as extended of the chest as I can, that my forearm is perpendicular to the handle. And I'm just going to take it from there and press it out. And again, in this case, I knew for a fact that this would be a relatively straightforward weight for me. So I can do lots and lots of repetitions here. And then what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to be able to get more than, say, 12 repetitions, the next time I'm going to come into the gym, I'm going to increase the amount of weight that I add to the rack back there so that the resistance increases when I am able to easily complete the move. And so what that means is, I'm going to struggle on my 12th one. I'll get my 12th one. That means the next time I come into the gym, I'm going to try a heavier weight. For me, I love it when I hit my 12th repetition, because for me, doing lots and lots of repetitions is hard. Lifting a really heavy weight for a few repetitions, I much prefer that, because there's not as much pain associated with it for me. And it's not really pain, it's just more like my muscle is screaming at me that it's working really hard. So again, that's relatively straightforward for me. That's great, because I don't need pain to make gains. We all have heard the expression, no pain, no gain. That's not really the way it works. The way it works is, if I get pain 2 days later, we get it a lot of times when we're unaccustomed to the exercise. We've produced a little bit of damage. What my body has to do is it has to actually fix that damage. If we feel a lot of pain the next day or the day after that, it just means that we're much more focused on repairing things than growing things. And what we want to do is, over time, when we get used to the activity, we're going to feel less and less pain. A lot of people think, oh, I'm not working hard enough, I got to do new things. That's absolutely not the case. We make the most gains in muscle mass and strength after we get used to the exercise, and we don't feel pain the next day or 2 days later. So we do a lot of pushing exercises. It's easy to find pushing exercises, push-ups, or anything that we can do. I can do a pushing exercise just right here. Totally easy. Everything is made for us to push. It's hard for us to find pulls. So this is basically a pull down. Every gym is going to have a pull down. You can go out to the park and find little bars and do pull-ups if you're advanced. What we do with a pulling exercise is we want to have our hands wide enough so that when we come to the bottom of the exercise, the forearms are perpendicular to the handles again. And so all we're going to do is we're going to pull down, we're going to hold it for one count at the bottom, we're going to let the weight up, okay? But we don't just let the weight drop. That's not good for us. So what we do is we pull, takes us about a second to come down, we control the weight on the way up. I always tell people that we get stronger by going into the negative phase. We count the number when we go into the positive phase. All right, so really focusing on returning the weight, whether I'm extending and bringing it back, or in this case, I'm pulling it down, and the lengthening or eccentric phase is when I go up. Controlling that is really going to be the key to your ability to get stronger. So what I've done here is I've just taken you through, shown you a couple of different exercises. Really, all you need to do is something that's going to be a big move for the legs, something like a leg press or a squatting movement, where I can go down and press up and I get both my knee and my hip joint bending, so I get good load through all of the big muscles of my legs. And then what I want to do is at least one big push. It can be a shoulder press or a chest press, anything like that for my upper body, some big pressing movement. And then what I want to do from there is some sort of a pulling movement. And so we have, in this one, we got a pull down, or we could do chin-ups, we could do anything where we can pull and bring something towards our body. If we do that, a big pressing movement with the legs, a big pressing movement with our upper body, and a big pulling movement with our upper body, that's basically got the majority of the muscles within our body, and that's going to be enough to do our early exercise. As we get good at that, and as we want to do a little bit more, we can add extra exercises. We can add, if I'm going for my legs and I want to get better leg work, then we can go to that isolation exercise I showed you, the leg extension, and then add maybe a leg curl and then do the leg press or the squatting movement. That's going to give us an extra stimulus for our legs to get stronger. If I go from my press to my pull and I still want to do some more, I can do a different press and a different pull. Just use different muscles. So maybe going from a chest press to a shoulder press, but have the pull in between. That's going to allow you to get both your chest and your shoulders, your two big pushing muscles, as well as your back muscles, with that pulling movement. So you just can add either exercises, you can add extra sets if you want. But remember, the key thing is that one set is going to give you most of the effect. I have a colleague, Stu Phillips, who explains it like this. Basically, if I have a wet towel and I wring out the towel, the first time I wring out the towel, I get like 80 to 90% of the water out. If I then do it again and I squeeze really hard, maybe I'm going to get a little bit more, maybe 3 to 4% more. But for most of us, it's that 90+% on that first squeeze is going to give us most of the water, most of the effect of increasing muscle size and strength. So we don't have to do lots and lots of sets. My personal workout goes through the exercises. Some of the exercises I've shown you, I do 7 total exercises. It takes me 20 minutes to do the whole thing, and that's it. And I do that twice a week. How many times a week you do it is going to be dependent on how quickly you recover, how hard you go. So the harder I go in one exercise, the longer it's going to take me to recover. So at the beginning, maybe if I'm going nice and gentle, maybe I can go 3 times a week, or maybe I'll just start with 2. If I'm started with 2 and I'm seeing good progress and I'm like, oh, I want to go more, add a third and see how your body responds. If your body continues to get stronger, that's great. You can go 3 times a week. If your body starts to get a little bit weaker, you might be overtraining. And so go back to that 2 times a week. Those are simple things that you can do to follow that'll allow you to continue to progress for months to years without a lot of pain, without a lot of time. And really, all we're doing is we're just giving ourselves that stimulus to make our muscles bigger and stronger so that we have the capacity to live a longer life, but also we're going to have a better quality of life because our muscle mass is going to allow us to do the things that we want to do longer into our lives.